Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Henry. Welcome to Midway USA.
I'm Josh.
And we're from 9-Hole Reviews, and today on Range, we are talking about the much debated Red Dot versus LPVO, the low power variable optic.
Man, this is a topic that everybody feels like it's talked to death, isn't it? It's a hot topic. Lots of people debate it. Is super opinionated.
But rightfully so, because if you are looking, especially if you're getting into shooting, right? You've got your trusty AR-15 and you're looking at, okay, how do I want to outfit this? What am I going to put on it as a sighting system? I come from the iron sight era that I very much recognize is passé to most people, which if you're into carry handles and iron sights, we have an episode on Midway USA on the M16A2's iron sight system. But
if you're like me,
nowadays,
if you're like me and you're
99% of the people in America
and chasing performance and you want to find something that's going to work and give you the best potential optical advantage, you know, what should you be aiming for? And that's what we're going to talk about here briefly. Now, today, really quick, we're shooting Geissele 14.5-inch uppers with effectively matching lowers. These are some of our favorite off-the-shelf OEM style uppers. They are premium. You got to spend a bit more, but if you're looking for them, Midway USA has them most of the time in stock, and they are very accurate, very well gassed.
Quite frankly, we bought these on our own, and these perform phenomenally.
Yeah,
and it's
really
not
nice.
just accuracy, it's also reliability.
Yep.
And
gassing, everything. It feels really good.
So
we're shooting
very
similar setups. The only major difference, Henry's got an aim point. I've got a Nightforce ATACR. Yes, these are hyper bougie optics. Yes, you could easily do this with a Holosun or a Primary Arms Red Dot and a Vortex Viper or an SLX. Yes, 100%.
I am particularly fond of the Aimpoint Comp M4 because this is what we used a lot in the military.
Sure. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about these things. Now, the first major takeaway I think we can just sort of set the groundwork with is, for the majority of people, there is an understanding that as you start to extend out in range, getting further from your targets, the magnification provided by a low power variable optic, whether 1 to 4, 1 to 6, 1 to 8, something in that bucket, it's going to be helpful for you. You're going to be able to see the targets better, identify them better, and also be able to set your sight alignment with them more advantageously. So that probably starts as close as maybe like 50 yards or so, but it becomes very relevant as you start to pass 200.
Right, yeah.
And that's really where we start to see the major advantages of the magnification, because of course you can shoot red dots exclusively out to what?
Sure.
500.
I've shot it on our show out to 500 and beyond.
Yep.
That being said, just because you can do it,
not optimal,
doesn't mean you should do it.
Right.
Now remember, 200 yards, that's 2 football fields away. Now you're shooting at a target that's about this size.
Yep.
Is that relevant to what you're doing?
Well, and that's really the secondary piece of this equation, Henry. So what I would go with this really quickly is that it is relatively well understood that if you're planning to do a decent amount of mid to long range, some sort of extended distance engagement for a carbine out to 500, 600, 700 yards, maybe just even outside of 300 yards, having an LPVO, having a optic that has measuring gradiated aiming points like a BDC, Mills, MOA, it's going to be advantageous. Hard to argue that.
Sure.
But to Henry's point, when we look at what the average person is doing with an AR platform, it's probably personal protection, home defense. It's stuff that's like 25 yards might be your max distance. So what we're going to talk about today is really, is there a place for something like this in 25 yards? And are you giving anything up with something like this inside of 25 yards? What do you say?
Light it up.
All right, so the steel out there is about 30 yards out. So what we're talking about here is really, you know, that's like the max effective or the max total range we're talking about engaging. And with an LPVO, I can go back and forth one steel to the other without almost any sort of issue whatsoever.
No.
Super easy. This is just set to 1 power and I'm just shooting.
Question. A lot of people will talk about daylight bright reticles.
Sure.
Were you shooting with the reticle lit or was it not lit?
This is actually without the reticle lit at all. I'm just looking at the brackets of the Stadia and putting the target in the center of it and sort of point shooting. So easily shootable at that type of a distance. I'm sort of going like this with my eye because my eye dominance is a little bit screwy. I have horrible vision. I have corrective lenses. And so I do a little bit of a like half close, but it depends on the optic that I'm shooting. Some optics I can shoot 2 eyes open, no problem. One I have to sort of like flutter my left eye closed. Red dots, we're shooting both eyes open basically exclusively. And I would certainly suggest that you should be trying to shoot either of these setups, both eyes open if you can. Nice, fast, dude. Very fast.
That's the advantage of a red dot though. You know, like both eyes open, well, sort of. It peaks for someone who doesn't practice as much as you do. It peaks for me because the LPVO up close does take a little bit more practice than a red dot, I will say.
All right, so let's take this 10-yard piece of paper really quick here.
Sure.
And I'm gonna give him a burst and sort of do it on a snap cadence as well. So something like that, where one shot off out in the Charlie zone just to the left, but that is basically where I'm 2 shots just slightly off to the left. Henry says, shoot a little bit more, so I shoot a little bit more.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That directly into my face.
So, sort of just snapping the gun up, being there and being able to engage on something like an LPVO, definitely possible and feasible.
I dropped one a little bit to the right, but, oh, low actually.
Point being, was that much faster, if faster at all than what we're doing here?
No, the thing is, the style of shooting that Josh and I do on our own is drastically different. This is not a style of shooting that I participate very often. And so when I am shooting up close, I know I'm going to be slower than Josh significantly. You've got to be honest with yourself when you're choosing the sighting system for your rifle. Are you going to use the advantages of the LPVO, or are you going to rely on the advantages of the red dot, which the red dot, I would say at this distance requires a lot less practice, a lot less training, but at the same time, that with the proper amount of training can also do what this thing does.
That's probably a great way to say this. I'm gonna give us one more, yeah, you want to start,
yeah. Go.
Do you have enough?
Yeah. I have enough if I don't miss, my friend. Much to Josh's dismay.
Nice. So I think, Henry, I
dropped another one down again. I wasn't doing my height over bore.
Well, for shame, no height over bore. I think what this comes down to, though, ultimately, and it's a good point of conversation that Henry's hitting on, can the LPVO up close be just as fast? Yes, it can be effectively just as fast, but it requires ample amounts more time behind it to achieve that level of speed. Reason being is your positioning behind the optic as it comes up has to be perfect in order to get through the tube. So if you don't get a perfect mount, depending upon the level of forgiveness of the optic, you're going to be challenged with a more difficult ability to see the target, and be able to look through the optic. Whereas if that doesn't come up perfectly, as long as you can still see some sort of the dot in the tube, you can basically get it on target without really messing around with your cheek weld. So that's one advantage where the red dot is just gives you that extra level of forgiveness. So ultimately the trade-off is, are you going to practice to the level and degree that you need to with an LPVO in order for you to be as good as you could be with the red dot up close? And the rationale behind why you might choose to do that is because then you get the inherent advantage of having the magnification increase and the capability of being able to dial up and be better and more effective at distance. And that's really what it comes down to. Can we be quick on close range targets with this? Like, yes. Can be very fast and effective on close range targets with an LPVO, going target to target, shooting doubles up close on something close. And yeah, like it can be very fast, but if you are not spending ample amounts of time behind this, or if you're not training really like moving around with the gun a bunch and doing it while moving in and out of positions and how your head sort of has to hit the stock, then you will see a degraded performance level as compared to the red dot.
Outside of that, from a use case non-shooting perspective, these things weigh very, very differently.
Great point.
That thing weighs significantly more than the red dot.
Yep, this is probably between 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds with like the full mount, optic, like everything that's here, depending upon which ones you end up selecting. Whereas that, 10 ounces,
very lightweight,
8 ounces,
yeah.
12 ounces. So somewhere in the 3/4 of a pound category at most.
Yeah, I mean, I think also we've got to acknowledge that red dots also have magnifiers that could help you see your target a little easier, not make it more accurate.
Just your relation of your sight to the target.
You see the target a lot easier, and a lot of times you can strip those off. You don't have to make sure those are 0, whereas this, what you put on it, it's on the rifle.
Yep.
Permanently on the rifle.
That's right. So your weight and your logistics and your ability to modulate it, it's not there.
Correct.
With
Correct.
with a quick detach magnifier.
Yep.
So look guys, that's long and short. If you are somebody who is basically starting out, you're looking to outfit a rifle that is going to maximize in certain specific areas, or simply put, you never think you're really going to be pushing out beyond, you know, that 25-yard threshold. I would challenge, think very hard about the distances in things like your neighborhood or even long alleyways down your property or your driveway. Think about that for a second before you say 25 is max. But assuming that it is your max, you know, there really is a hard argument to be going for the dot over something like the LPVO, and this comes from somebody who loves LPVOs.
Well, to me, it comes down to being honest with yourself. How much are you going to practice? What are you going to use your weapon system for? And what kind of distances is associated with, what kind of distances, light conditions, and what kind of carrying distances are you going to associate that with? That being said, this is a very US military standard configuration for a reason, because it can take care of, say, 90% of the problems that you see in the field. But that said, ladies and gentlemen, I love this setup. You can find all of these things on Midway USA. You have anything else?
No, until next time, fellas. We'll see you on the range.
716, this is Steel Knight 6, 4 Vic, 8 packs, Redcon 1, green to green. How copy, over?
Steel Knight 6, this is 716, roger, over. 16, Steel Knight 1 pack, green, over. This is 716, roger, over.
16, Steel Knight 2, 1 Victor, 2 packs, Redcon 1, over.